All right, Fox News Alert. Welcome to Hannity. We are following several major breaking news stories. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, is totally grilled today on Capitol Hill over the rampant political bias at the DOJ, the FBI, and on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team. Now, this comes after Fox News obtained those anti-Trump, pro-Hillary Clinton text messages between the FBI agent Peter Strzok, his FBI lawyer girlfriend, both work for Mueller, Lisa Page. We have all the glorious Trump hate you can handle tonight, and Fusion GPS, the firm behind the Clinton bought and paid for fake Russian dossier. Well, guess what? They admit the wife of a recently demoted DOJ official worked at the company on Trump opposition research. This can't be in a novel anymore. You can't make it up. Also, Republicans reach a tentative deal on taxes. Big win for President Trump. And also, tonight, we'll get my take on the Alabama special election. You won't hear this anywhere else in the media. And by the way, Anderson Cooper's dog ate his homework. First, tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, the fallout continues over new examples of political bias, one after another, coming from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and from Robert Mueller's merry band of Democratic donors. Now, Fox News has obtained some of the text messages between that FBI agent, you know, the one that's involved in everything, Peter Strzok, and his FBI lawyer girlfriend, Lisa Page. They are full of all kinds of examples of Trump bashing. We're going to show you the actual messages in detail in a minute. But first, as you can imagine, the massive conflicts of interest, the political prejudice now being exposed in America's justice system has Republican lawmakers finally waking up and demanding answers. GOP congressmen, they wasted little time today in questioning the Deputy Attorney General, the guy that appointed Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, on Capitol Hill earlier today. This is a classic, epic. Take a look.
We are now beginning to better understand the magnitude of this insider bias on Mr. Mueller's team. First, we have FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page exchanging communications showing extreme bias against President Trump.
What happens when people who are supposed to cure the conflict of interest have even greater conflicts of interest than those they replace? That's not a rhetorical question. You nor I nor anyone else would ever sit Peter Strzok on a jury. We wouldn't have him objectively, dispassionately investigate anything, knowing what we know now. Why didn't we know it ahead of time?
My question to you is, how with a straight face can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
This is unbelievable. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the public trust in this whole thing is gone. So it seems to me you got two things you can do. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy who picked Mueller. You're the guy who wrote the memo saying why he needed to fire Comey. You're the guy in charge. You could disband the Mueller special prosecutor, and you can do what we've all called for. Appoint a second special counsel to look into this, to look into Peter Strzok, Bruce Orr, everything else we've learned in the last several weeks.
All this sound familiar? It should. You've heard it here first. We've been doing this now for months. Now, despite today's grilling, Rosenstein, he remains defiant and actually defending Mueller and his team of Clinton lovers and Trump haters. Pretty unbelievable. Watch this.
I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about political affiliation, that all demonstrates political affiliation. The issue of bias is something different. I've discussed this with Director Mueller, and he and I collectively have a lot of experience managing offices in the Department of Justice. We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions. Pardon me. And so I believe that Director Mueller understands that, and that he is running that office appropriately, recognizing that people have political views, but ensuring that those views are not in any way a factor in how they conduct themselves. And I don't know exactly what the president meant by that, Congressman. The special counsel's investigation is not a witch hunt.
There's one problem. There's only one opinion. It's pro-Hillary, anti-Trump. There's a mountain of evidence now showing this bias among Mueller's investigators, yet Rosenstein pretending like he's the only person in America that doesn't see it. See no evil, hear no evil. What's happening? This is a direct threat to the rule of law in this country. Rosenstein is aiding and abetting that threat. Now, if he had any sort of moral compass, he would shut down Mueller's corrupt witch hunt immediately. Why he doesn't see it? is beyond anything I could ever think about. Now, as for Mueller's team of corrupt and biased Democratic donors, here's a quick overview of what we know about them. They have given piles of cash, over 50 grand in total, to Democrats, including Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. By the way, only one of them donated to a Republican. None of them gave any money to Donald Trump, and that's just the start of it. One of Mueller's top investigators, Jeannie Ray, she worked closely with Eric Holder, remember him, and represented the Clinton Foundation during the 2015 racketeering case. If I wrote a novel or a movie, you wouldn't believe it. And then there's Mueller's top prosecutor. Yep, there's his guy, Andrew Weissman. He oversaw that highly controversial obstruction of justice case. Remember Arthur Anderson, the accounting firm, Enron? It destroyed the company. They were put out of business. Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs. 2005, the Supreme Court overturned Weissman's conviction 9-0. A unanimous ruling. And as part of the Enron investigation, Weissman also sent 4 Merrill Lynch executives to jail. Big problem. That conviction was also overturned by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. And Weissman, well, he's been accused of doing just about anything to secure a conviction. Let's see, withholding exculpatory evidence and intimidating witnesses, just among the few charges. And last week, Judicial Watch released an email where Weissman told the former acting attorney general, Sally Yates, how proud he was of her after Yates defied a direct order from her boss, the President of the United States, and refused to defend the travel ban. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Weissman attended Hillary Clinton's election night party. Wow. Now, finally, there's the Trump-hating, Clinton-loving FBI agent Peter Strzok. He's involved in everything. Now, Fox News has obtained exclusively the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages between Strzok and his girlfriend, Lisa Page, also someone that worked for Mueller. Before we show you the text messages, here's the backstory. Now, this guy Strzok used to be a top counterintelligence official before being demoted and actually signed the document that started the entire Russia-Trump so-called investigation. Strzok's team was assigned to handle the anti-Trump dossier when it was first given to the FBI. Now, get this. He also oversaw the interview of former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and he played a major role in the Clinton email investigation, sat in on Hillary's FBI interview, was also at the interviews of Clinton's top aides, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, and this is the most egregious piece of information we have about Strzok. He's the guy. He's the one that changed. Remember the exoneration before investigation, James Comey? Well, it was James Comey and Peter Strzok. He changed the terminology from grossly negligent to extreme carelessness, which took and let Hillary off the hook in that particular case. Now, think about it. The fix was in. And Strzok is at the center of just about everything. This is the backstory. And that's why these text messages are so disturbing. Let's start. Let's look at this exchange. The date, March 4th, 2016. Page, the girlfriend, writes, God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok responds, yet he may win, and good for Hillary. And Page says it is. And then Strzok asks, would he be a worse president than Cruz? Page follows up, Trump? Yeah, I think so. And then Strzok replies, oh, I'm not sure. And then adds, oh, my God, he's an idiot. Page adds, he's awful. Strzok then says, America will get what the voting public deserves. That's you. And Page finishes with, that's what I'm afraid of. Later the same day, Strzok writes, God, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Page says, I know. Well, that conversation continues when Page says, what? Poor Kasich. He's the only sensible man up there. Strzok follows up with, he was pretty much calling for the death of Snowden. I'm a single-issue voter. Espionage machine party. And then Strzok adds, exactly regarding Kasich, and he has zero appeal. Then in June, Strzok writes, they fully deserve to go and demonstrate the absolute bigoted nonsense of Donald Trump. And he adds, truly. Later that month, Page texts, really, really like Joe Biden. Strzok responds by saying, opened on Trump? If Hillary did, 5 field offices would. Wow, rule of law. In July, Page texts, and wow, Donald Trump is an enormous, expletive. I can say it, but children may be watching. And in August, Page writes, Jesus, you should read this, and Trump should go bleep himself. And Strzok responds, God, that's a great article. Thanks for sharing. And bleep Trump. Now, Strzok even bashed Trump supporters, writing, quote, "Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support." And Paige, his girlfriend, replies, "Out to lunch with," well, redacted, "and we both hate everyone and everything." And then she adds, "Well, just riffing on the hot mess that is our country." Strzok ends by saying, "Yeah, it's scary, really, down here." Now, in October, Strzok sends this message: "I am riled up. Trump is a bleeping idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer." Strzok later texts, "I can't pull away. What the blank happened to our country?" And this particular message, pay close attention to. It's getting attention from other people as well. It's raising all kinds of important questions that we need answers to. Now, in August of 2016, Strzok texted, "I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected," meaning Trump. "But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Now, Fox News, we haven't confirmed that Andy, well, that text would be Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. And remember, McCabe's wife took $700,000 in donations from Democrats during a 2015 Virginia State Senate run. By the way, Terry McAuliffe up to his eyeballs there. There's also this text exchange. We edited out the middle part, which was a web link. Paige writes, "And maybe you meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace." And Strzok says, "Thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And of course, I'll try and approach it that way. I just know it will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps." What is the insurance policy? And why is Andy, who we think is Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, why is he involved in this? Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal reporting that the meeting with McCabe took place just as the FBI launched its counterintelligence probe into possible Trump-Russia connections. You can't write a novel like this. Now, the Journal also notes that July is when Christopher Steele briefed the FBI about the fake news dossier. And here's another huge question. How were these text messages discovered? And after reading all those messages, how can Rod Rosenstein honestly go before Congress today and conclude that special counsel is fair and unbiased? And then there's this new information, Fusion GPS. They have confirmed that Nellie Orr, the wife of the recently demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr, did in fact work for Fusion GPS. And Fusion GPS also confirmed that Nellie Orr worked on Trump opposition research. And we found out last week that Bruce Orr met with the former British spy that paid for the Russian lies to influence the election, that Steele is the person who put together the fake news anti-Trump Russian dossier with phony information. Well, we know Bruce Orr also met with Glenn Simpson. He's the co-founder of Fusion GPS after the election. And guess what? Orr's office was only 4 doors down from Rosenstein's. Wow. Everything that we've just explained shows that there are inexcusable conflicts of interest, that there are clear abusive biases at the DOJ and the FBI and Robert Mueller's team. Now, to be clear, this has nothing to do with rank and file, hardworking law enforcement agents. This is about the select few people at the top that think that they're above the law, that think that they know better than you. So we have to ask tonight, what in God's name is Robert Mueller doing? It's one giant, huge, massive web of corruption, and it's all aimed at taking down a duly elected president of the United States. What he is doing is immoral, it is unethical, and probably at some point we're going to find real illegal activity. Joining us now, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News National Security Strategist Sebastian Gorka, Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. Pam, thoughts?
Oh, Sean, it's like you said, if we were watching this on a movie, I don't think anyone would believe it, how unreal it is and what you've uncovered, what Fox has uncovered. First of all of these people need to be wiped off the case. They need to start over. There's no question about that. And I will say this every time. There are so many great men and women in our federal government, just like you said. But this has really gotten out of control. I think Ron DeSantis asked some great questions today. Trey Gowdy was great. And Rod Rosenstein sat there and answered him. And Rod said something, and I know Rod. Let me tell you, I know Rod. I've dealt with Rod, and I have only had completely ethical dealings with Rod. And that's my hope right here. He said something. It is their responsibility to be sure influence do not.
Pam, what else do we need? What
Opinions
else do
don't
we
influence
need?
their actions.
Action.
Well, what we need now is to get all of these other people off the case. And from hearing him today, I think he's ethical. I think all these people need to be removed. They're not.
Pam,
if you take Strzok and
he
Page,
said he thinks Mueller's doing a good job.
I think we need to hold on, though, Sean, and see what happens. I'm not defending Mueller. I'm not defending Rosenstein right now. But what I'm saying is, given everything that you've exposed, giving the hard-hitting questions today that he got at Congress, let's see what happens now. Let's see. All of these people need to be wiped out. There are plenty of good people out there who can handle a case, who have no influence. They haven't given to either party. And as you said, 8 out of the 16 people have not only donated to Democrats, but they have been very active in the anti-Trump movement. They all need to be gone.
Gorka.
Frankly, if they're talking about Andrew McCabe, there could be some criminal issues involved here too. Very strong criminal issues.
How do we interpret, Dr. Gorka, the insurance policy that they discussed with who we think is Andrew McCabe? Is the insurance policy, when you look at the timeline, that we'll just go after Trump and we'll manufacture Trump-Russian collusion, and that'll be the means to take out a duly elected president if we need to, because we're smarter than everybody else that voted for Donald Trump?
Sean, I'm not going to interpret, hypothesize, or parse what individual words in these text messages mean. We have enough evidence already. And I have to disagree with Pam. It's not about replacing individuals. It's about dissolving this team. We now know this team, Mueller's team, is manned by members of Hillary's so-called resistance movement. There's a reason that Lady Justice is blindfolded. In this case, she's taken her blindfold off. She's partisan, and she's using that sword to attack the president. And one crucial point: where is Peter Strzok today? The second these text messages came out, Director Wray should have gone up to Peter Strzok, taken his gun, taken his badge, and fired him from law enforcement. He is now in the HR department of the Bureau. Think about what you can do at the HR department. Is he there massaging documents? Is he hiding the political identities of other people investigating the president? This isn't political bias. This is corruption at the highest level of law enforcement.
How can he look at the team of Clinton lovers, Trump haters that have been assembled, the unethical, proven behavior of Andrew Weissman? How could he look at this team that he has put together, and then we hear, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way Trump gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in case you die before you're 40. I can't interpret that as any other way than deep state, powerful operatives scheming, plotting, and planning to undermine an election. Tell me where I'm wrong, Pam Bondi.
No, and Sebastian, you used much better words than I. That team they need to be dissolved and they need to be investigated. I guess I'm holding out hope that Rod Rosenstein, after listening to him testify, that he is having that entire team investigated.
Pam, why doesn't he see the team?
I can tell you, Sean.
I hope he sees it, and I hope they're being dissolved. And I hope we see very soon, and dissolved is a much better word, Sebastian, that this team needs to be wiped out.
Let me give you one example.
I agree with that.
Comey and Strzok, they're the two guys that exonerated Hillary Clinton. We now know on the email server investigation, they exonerated her before the investigation. Now, that sounds like obstruction to me.
They're corrupt. They're
Dr.
corrupt.
Gorka?
Comey is corrupt. Strzok is corrupt. I know Rod Rosenstein. I've met him. He is a quintessential bureaucratic survivor. He is going to skate along trying to make everybody happy, but he's not going to change the fundamentally corrupt nature of this team. Even Mueller himself, he's a Vietnam vet. He's got a sterling record, but maybe he's just utterly tone deaf. You cannot have 10 people that are absolutely in the tank for Hillary investigate the Republican president who defeated Hillary.
I gave you the one example. I'll give you another example. What about the dossier? How is it possible 4 doors down from Rod Rosenstein is a guy by the name of Bruce Orr? He's meeting with Fusion GPS as this is all going on. His wife is doing anti-Trump research for them. 4 doors down. Now, Trump-Russia collusion. How about Hillary paying for Russian propaganda lies that were used in a campaign to influence the American people? Is that collusion, Pam?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you can't blame Rosenstein just because his office is 4 doors down. And again, I'm not defending him. I'm saying I'm hoping he's going to do the right thing. I know him. I've worked with him. All of these people, I agree, need to be dissolved off this investigation. And he said we're going to be seeing something very soon. And that's what I'm hopeful we're going to be seeing, because he's supervising Mueller.
This is worse than Watergate on a million levels here.
I agree.
By the time we untangle this massive web of corruption, it will be worse than Watergate. It will be Watergate on human growth hormone and steroids combined at massive levels.
It's a banana republic.
And you're the one who had to untangle it, Sean, not the federal government.
It's
That's
sad.
the shame of it.
And the media is nowhere to be found. They're still locked into a 1-year investigation with 0 evidence. That's how pathetic they are.
I doubt we would have had today's hearing without you, Sean.
No,
That's how bad it is.
A lot of Sarah Carter, John Solomon, and some of our colleagues here at Fox, Catherine Herridge and others. It's literally a small group, and all of you. Thank you. All right, when we come back, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. He's been amazing on this issue. He'll talk about Rosenstein's testimony, Peter Strzok's anti-Trump text messages. I also, mini monologue tonight, I'll give you my thoughts on the special election in Alabama. You won't hear this anywhere else. Oh, and also tonight, CNN's Anderson Cooper. Dog ate his homework. Trust me, you won't believe it. Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity, here now with reaction to my opening monologue on Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, his testimony today on Capitol Hill, and the corruption that is within Mueller's special counsel, author of the book, Trumped Up, How Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz is back with us. First, Professor, let me get your reaction to the hearing, and more particularly to this email exchange, and the depth in terms of this one guy, Strzok, taps into almost everything we have discussed for a year. Does the FBI not have any other employees? Because it seems like he's it.
Well, first of all, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah, and in 12 days, a Merry Christmas.
Day 2 today. Yes, sir.
And let me give you some legal context to this, I think. This is a terrible problem. It's a very serious problem. It's a problem not only of perception of bias, but the reality of bias here. And so any defendant who gets indicted by the Mueller group is going to be able to challenge their indictment in court. And here's the way Mueller is going to defend it. He's going to say, look, our statutes prohibit me from considering political affiliation in hiring people. I just hired the best people. They all happen to be Democrats who supported Clinton. The response to that is going to be, well, maybe not political affiliation, but bias within a political affiliation. These folks who wrote these emails, they should have been sensible enough to recuse themselves immediately. They have a strong bias, just like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has expressed a very strong bias against President Trump, and I hope she will recuse herself in any case involving the president directly. So should there be a special counsel appointed? No, because I don't see evidence of crimes. But I think what Mueller should do is appoint an ethics consultant, somebody like a former Attorney General, Mike Mukasey, a former head of the FBI, Louis Freeh, to come in and do a complete evaluation of everybody on his staff. Look at every email.
That he needs it? To me, this is so transparent, the team that he's put together. You know Andrew Weissman. You've been you know this guy. He didn't belong on that team. You know, how many overturns are there? 9-0. You've argued before the Supreme Court.
Yep. It's a very good question. Andrew Weissman has a reputation of being an excellent, very tough, somewhat zealous lawyer. I didn't know anything about his political affiliation. I actually had a case against him not so long ago. He's very, very good. He never should have sent that email congratulating Sally Yates. Sally Yates should not have been congratulated. Well, I wrote an op-ed piece saying when you're the acting Attorney General of the United States, you enforce the law.
How about withholding exculpatory evidence? How about in other cases what could only be deemed as beyond aggressive tactics to get convictions?
I agree with you. As a civil liberties lawyer, I am appalled when prosecutors withhold exculpatory evidence, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We have to defend the civil liberties of all Americans, starting with the president. And there are so many partisans out there who say, all right, we're civil libertarians, but we got to get rid of this president, so let civil liberties be put aside. And that's what some of these emails suggest, that they were prepared to do anything to get rid of this president, and that's a bias.
What about this one particular text message? And we only have less than 400. There are over 10,000. Can't wait for the rest of them. But I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. I believe they're talking about McCabe. Personally, it's a guess. I haven't confirmed it. That there's no way Trump gets elected if we follow that path, is what they're saying. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. That's chilling to me, that email. It is,
and I think there has to be an investigation of that, but I don't want criminal investigations. We should start with ethics investigations, congressional investigations. I always suggested a nonpartisan commission like the 9/11 Commission, but when you start with the special counsel, you're immediately saying there must be crime here, and I think that's wrong on both sides. So I'm opposed to the Republicans' call for a special counsel, just as I was opposed for the appointment of Mueller as a special counsel. We have to get the criminalization out of our system and start looking simply to learn the truth. And we have to find out everything we can about any bias of anybody in the Mueller probe. Otherwise, it's simply not going to have credibility, and it's going to be subject to challenge by any criminal defendant who was indicted by this special counsel.
All right, Professor. Love your keen intellect, and people want to have some fun following you on Twitter against Lawrence Tribe. It's a bit of an intellectual
As you know,
trip.
I challenged him to a debate, and he said, well, maybe in May. Well, you know, seize the day. Let's have a debate now.
I will tell you, Professor, I will give you 2 seats here on my set. Great. And it will be an open debate, and I'll stay out of it. How's that? Full hour.
I accept.
One-on-one. You got it. All right, coming up next, I'll give you my thoughts. The media is so wrong on what happened last night in Alabama's special election and what the media will never tell you. Also, Kellyanne Conway is here tonight. And later, well, let's just say Anderson Cooper's dog ate his homework. I'll explain. It's pretty profound. Straight ahead. All right, as you know, last night, Doug Jones, he defeated Roy Moore in that Alabama special election. Now, the media doesn't really want you to understand what happened in that state, but I will tell you because it is so obvious if you know what's really going on. That's tonight's mini monologue. All right, now, because President Trump is so hated by the left, the Destroy Trump media, mainstream media, they're trying to blame Trump for Roy Moore's loss last night. This is pretty predictable. They blame him for everything. If the dog bites, if the bee stings, if you're feeling sad, it's all President Trump's fault. I've told you this before in the program. Now, look, I've lived in Alabama. I had a great number of years there. I've known Congressman Mo Brooks since 1990. He used to fill in for me on my radio show. So when the primary race to fill Jeff Sessions' open seat began, I endorsed Mo Brooks. Here's what I said at the time on my radio show.
There is a primary next Tuesday in the state of Alabama, and Mo Brooks, I've known for 27 years. I've endorsed him in his candidacy. Now he's a member of the Freedom Caucus. I proudly support him.
Now, Mo Brooks was on the ballot yesterday. I promise you, he would have won the election by 20 points easily. Now, I'm going to be very blunt. It wasn't Trump. Mitch McConnell and the D.C. establishment inserted themselves into this race. They never wanted Mo Brooks to be the next senator from Alabama. They looked at Mo Brooks as another Ted Cruz, a conservative voice that would fight the D.C. swamp, be against the establishment. So what did Mitch and company do? They poured in millions and millions of dollars to support the establishment candidate, Luther Strange, by the way, who has his own little ethical issues and how he got appointed. I'll save that for another night. It had a huge impact on the race. Mo Brooks ended up coming in third, didn't qualify for the runoff primary election. Now, the people of Alabama, they weren't exactly happy with the establishment and McConnell's interference. So when it came down to a simple choice between an ethically challenged, in my view, Luther Strange versus Roy Moore, well, the people of Alabama voted for the anti-establishment candidate. All right, now Roy Moore, he's always been controversial. Extremely polarizing figure in Alabama politics. Here's the example. Back in 2012, in Alabama, Roy Moore, he won the race for Chief Justice on the Alabama Supreme Court. He only won 52% of the vote. And that was before, like in this case, all of these accusations of misconduct were leveled against Judge Moore. So it is not surprising that last night Alabama elected a Democrat to the U.S. Senate for the first time in over 20 years, I think since Heflin was last senator there. So the morning after, when I look at who's to blame for this embarrassing loss, it is not President Trump. You know, that's the lazy, knee-jerk, mainstream media, simplistic explanation. Roy Moore, yeah, in ways he has himself to blame. In many ways. Ran a terrible campaign, was not even out on the campaign trail a lot in the last week, and he had to deal with all of those allegations. And you might remember, when I interviewed Roy Moore, when the accusations first surfaced, I made it clear at the time I was shocked by some of his answers. We called him out on that. And I figured, honestly, at that point, he said he didn't know the woman claimed he wrote in the yearbook, and I claimed at that point, forensics would decide this race. They would tell if he's telling the truth or not. I interviewed a handwriting analysis expert, 42 years experience, who told me with 100% certainty he could prove, if he had Roy Moore's writings at the time and compared it to the yearbook, that he would tell if it was Roy Moore's handwriting. He would also be able to tell if, in fact, the ink was new or the ink was old. To this day, I have no idea why the analysis didn't happen. The people of Alabama deserve that. But the campaign was botched from the get-go. And in 2 years, well, the good news is the people of Alabama will get another chance to make their voices heard. I assume they'll have better candidates. I would say off the top of my head, Mo Brooks would be the best one. And by the way, we wish him well. He announced he had prostate cancer today, but in a very curable position. But as I said earlier, the media, they're making this Democratic victory out to be a major repudiation of Donald Trump. Just look at the over-the-top coverage from last night alone. Watch this.
If you're in the Jones campaign, a little while ago you were biting your nails, now you're starting to think, okay, this math could work for us, and we'll see. And one of the things I'm going to check when the panel gets on the board here, again, 72% Jefferson County, we're keeping that margin over there. They're getting excited across the room there. Well, it tends to happen on election night.
Look at this. Wow, look at this.
All
of a sudden, Doug Jones is taking the lead.
Hale County just came in.
Take a look.
Which puts him back in the lead.
We witnessed a race, an outcome that many people thought was impossible. We witnessed an outcome that is an earthquake in a lot of ways.
I think we will look back on this as part of a continuum and a very, very significant night, not just for the Democratic Party, but for this country.
Eugene, thank you. As always, you just put things into relief and context.
Abandon a candidate or abandon their convictions. Okay. Please don't do this. It really annoys me. You know, I really don't interrupt you. And you do this completely. Listen, I'm so through with your mansplaining, and you're smirking and you're laughing. I'm not in the mood for this today.
Make a point.
Oh, happy day. I've made my point.
Okay, good.
Well, this is my point.
That's a little bit different than how they reacted back in November 8th, 2016. Oh, when President Trump won. Remember this.
America is crying tonight. I'm not sure how much of America, but a very, very significant portion, and I mean literally crying. Yeah. This is a sadness. It is a mourning moment for those people, and it is a moment filled with fear. Filled with fear.
Our country is about to face some serious crises, and so, I mean, buckle up. Your country needs you.
It's a pretty extraordinary thing to say. If you have a son in the Marine Corps and that you don't trust the commander-in-chief. The people in the military defend the Constitution.
This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part.
Told you in 2007, journalism's dead. There's the glaring double standard. Shouldn't surprise you. According to a new study, Media Research Center, guess what? 90% of the coverage on the three big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, from September to November about President Trump, well, 90% negative. And despite all of that, the president continues to stay focused. He's working hard. He's pushing his agenda through. The economy is still soaring. We look much better on the world stage. And today, he made his argument in support of the GOP tax plan finished. Many Americans will be getting money back, thank God. Joining us now with reaction, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. You know, the president, I think you saw the show because you made fun of me privately, and I was doing all of Trump's accomplishments. Ding, 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 ding. I know the media doesn't cover that. All the regulations he got done. This is now a corporate tax cut that's massive, middle-class tax cut, repatriation. This is a big deal. And energy independence. Millions of jobs will be created on an already growing and recovering economy.
Today was truly one of the most exciting days since we've been there this year. And you can see it. You can feel it. The president was very excited to host 5 families, Sean, all of whom accepted his invitation to go up to the podium in front of live TV cameras and tell their stories unscripted. They've thought long and hard about what they would do with extra money in their pockets. There's been like a one-way ticket for everybody's money going from their wallet to Washington, and this president is stopping that. He's stopping the bleeding. And you heard these families say some would invest it in their children's education. Some are going to invest in home renovations. Another family from Washington State said they would give it to folks who were in need, give some charitable contributions in their community. But the point is the expectation, the anticipation alone of reducing that corporate rate, making us more competitive, bringing those jobs back from overseas, a centerpiece of President Trump's economic pledge to this nation. Just the anticipation of it has meant 17-year high in consumer confidence. Yesterday, we saw the NFIB and other small business groups like the Small Business Entrepreneurship Council, they're all coming out with their measurements. They've never seen anything like it. So we're on the verge of passing historic tax reform. And the president said something else important today. He said that people would start seeing the difference in their paychecks in February. When you file your taxes by April 15th next year, you will have seen the difference in your paychecks. He is the paycheck president.
Let me ask you, Kellyanne, you saw what happened with Rosenstein today. You've heard me lay out the whole narrative with Strzok and his girlfriend, Lisa Page. You got Andrew Weissman. You got all the Democratic donors. You got the exoneration before the investigation. The dossier, and then you got Bruce Orr's wife, Fusion GPS. Hillary paid for Russian propaganda to influence the election. You put all this together and you look at where we are. Where are you on all of this? Because I know where I am. This is the most corrupt I've ever seen things at the top. The deep state is alive and well, and they've been working overtime to hurt this president day in and day out.
The president has made very clear many times, Sean, that he has a great deal of faith in the rank and file at the FBI and other intelligence agencies and many of the hardworking men and women in his government. At the same time, we always want investigations to be independent, to be fair, to be transparent and accountable. And Americans have a right to feel disturbed by what they see, not what's being spun to them, but what they see in text exchanges, what they see in terms of people's political motivations and predilections. So I'm glad the information evidence is getting out there. But from my perspective in the White House, it shows you the split screen of what's going on. You see all of that, this hovering investigation about 2016, and we're back to the Clinton campaign and all this. Again, we just can't get rid of them somehow, some way. I'd love to. But you see the split screen. You have the president, Donald Trump, standing there today on the verge of tax relief. And by the way, he also is doing something else tomorrow. He's going to be talking about massive deregulation. There's an op-ed by Naomi Rao coming out in the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. It's huge. But he's announcing tomorrow so people understand. He promised two regulations out for every new one in. He's way ahead. He and his agencies are way ahead of that, saving you billions of dollars as taxpayers.
Kellyanne, always good to see you. And by the way, if I don't see you, have a Merry Christmas. You can say Merry Christmas again. The president said
Merry Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Hanukkah and happy blessed New Year to all.
Amen. When we come back, Greg Jarrett, Tommy Lahren are next. And also, apparently CNN's Anderson Cooper His dog ate his homework. You can't make this stuff up, but we'll let you decide. Straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Joining us now, Fox News contributor Tommy Lahren, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Let's go back to my opening monologue. Let's start there. I want to put your legal hat on for a second. I am stunned. This, to me, is bigger by far than anything that came up in Watergate.
It's clear there was a nefarious conspiracy by the FBI and the Department of Justice to elect Hillary Clinton and defeat Donald Trump. When it didn't work, the conspirators launched their Plan B, which was a fraudulent investigation of President Trump into crimes which don't exist under the law. So this is the deep state, as you've often referred. The deep state is a group of partisans who have been together for 20 years. All these guys are thick as thieves. They conspired to unseat and undo the election, unseat the president and undo the election. Plan A was exonerate Hillary Clinton. That didn't work. Plan B was to...
oh, wait a minute. They did exonerate her.
Well, they exonerated
without
her,
an investigation.
but it didn't lead to her ascendancy to the presidency, which was their goal.
Which was the plan.
The emails prove it. Look at the emails. The most telling email of all is the email in which Strzok's lover says to him, "You were meant to be in this position to save the country, to save the republic."
And he was part of the exoneration.
He totally was part of the...
Tommy, let me bring you into this. We cover a lot of corruption. I want to be clear. I love the FBI. I love law enforcement. I have a Secret Service pin on. I'm thankful that we have the powerful tools of intelligence. I am worried, and I think, you're a little younger than Greg and I. You've got to be worried about the future of this country for your generation and future generations if the rule of law is thwarted like this.
Well, absolutely, I am. But the question isn't if there's political bias here. The question isn't if they're trying to destroy President Trump and his administration. It's why. Why are you doing this to try to take down this president that's doing great things for the American people? Why are you doing this to the supporters that voted for him, for someone that's going in and actually making real change? Why are you trying so hard to take him down? That's my question. I find it sick and disgusting.
Those are all great questions. Greg.
It was always a myth that collusion in a political campaign is a crime. It's not. And there was never a scintilla of evidence that President Trump engaged in some collaboration with the Russians. So this was all manufactured. It was invented by the FBI and the Department of Justice. And now we know why. Because they hated Trump. They loved Hillary Clinton. They were trying to elect her, and they were trying to defeat him. And when it didn't work, they went about to Plan B.
Plan B.
Yeah, Plan B. Plan B is...
manufactured by the deep state.
Right. Let's just say there's a crime, and then we'll search in vain for a crime. And so now that we know there's no collusion in the political campaign, the question is, was there collusion in the transition? No, that's not a Logan Act violation.
Find out that dossier was used as the predicate for that Pfizer warrant. Let me go. Tommy, what's your reaction? All this information is ignored by the mainstream media.
Of course it is. And here's what also frustrates me and should frustrate the American people. Look at how much we're spending for this independent investigation. That's our hard-earned dollars that are being spent on this crap. And that should anger every American. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, independent. I don't care what color you are. That should anger you. And all this stuff coming out should anger those in the mainstream media as well. But, oh, imagine that. They're silent.
Good to see you both. When we come back, Anderson Cooper is in hot water. His dog ate his homework. Straight ahead. All right, you're going to love this. Before we go, CNN's Anderson Cooper had some little splaining to do today. Take a look at this tweet from Anderson Cooper's Twitter account this morning, responding to the president's tweet about the Alabama Senate race. And it says, "Oh, really? You endorsed him, you tool, pathetic loser." Here's the thing. CNN fake news. They are now claiming Cooper never sent that tweet. Instead, they're saying Cooper's assistant left his phone unlocked and unattended at the gym today, and some mysterious person stole it and tweeted out all of that. Wow. I guess Anderson's dog ate his homework. Whatever you say, Anderson. All right, that's all the time we have left. Let not your heart be troubled. Laura Ingraham is standing by. Hi. Big show tonight.
Hannity, was it on one of the elliptical machines and just happened to look,
how do you leave your phone unlocked? Because it locks automatically if you don't use it.
Hannity, I like to see you in leg warmers, spandex on one of the, one of the elliptical things. How long you've done that, right? Step aerobics. You used to do that in the 80s.
Krav Maga, Kempo, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, street martial arts. That's how I train. I'm not running on a stupid machine hours and hours, bored out of my mind.
I've got to say, I've seen your hand, and it's been broken, fingers broken with mixed martial arts. So
this
I can
is the
attest
latest.
To the fact.
If you look at it, this
it's
right
not
there.
a
If you want to pan in on it, this is the latest break.
Yeah,
I
that appendage
snapped
is
it
not
here
attractive.
when I hit somebody. Yeah.
No, that's not attractive.
It's full contact. It's a lot of fun. And
I'm afraid of you. That's all I know, and I'm not really afraid of anyone.
Why do you start in on me? I hand the show over nicely. Laura Ingraham has a great show, and this is what I get.
Well, agreed. By the way, I think you should come. No, Hannity, I think you should come to the studio one night on one of those painted horses, like Moore came in. Wouldn't that be fun in Manhattan? You just roll right down 6th Avenue. Come on, that would be. I want to see that.
Okay. And by the way, it's New York City. Every liberal in the world will be there. Good luck.
All right, Sean, you take care. All right,
have a good show.
All right, and welcome everybody to the Ingraham Angle from Washington.